At long last, it is here. The Frank Bello signature StreetDriver48 pedal from Tech21. Let's check it out. So we finally have one in-house here, and I've gotten a lot of questions and requests from you guys on this one, so big shout out to my student David for bringing this one by so I could check it out, get a demo up, and give you my thoughts on it. I've been definitely looking forward to this one too, so it's going to be an interesting go-through because a lot of the speculation, I think, on what this pedal was going to be based around and what some of the features were going to be, a little different from what I was expecting, and probably you too. So let's check it out. One of the first things that struck me about it is this is a meat and potatoes, straight to the point type of thing. I thought there might be a little bit more options, maybe a second channel, things like this, but this is a right in the door, this is the sound at its core, and then you're going to sculpt it type of option. The other thing that seemed a little different to me was I assumed that this would probably be based off of the original SansAmp bass driver, since it's been used so much, and I'm pretty sure Frank used one of those early on, and I don't think it is. It's definitely a bit of a different tone stack, it's got a different feel and sound, and there's some options in it that I don't think people have really nailed yet that I want to bring to your attention for sure, because it's not based around the traditional bass driver tone. There's a few other options that I think are hidden under the hood. Under the hood. Street driver. Yeah. Enough with the dad jokes. But, like I said, getting to the point on it, you have 4 knobs, 2 switches, done deal. So for just mechanical layout, what we have is just a single 1/4 inch in, single 1/4 inch out, and an XLR2. So pretty standard as far as that goes, the main options you'd see in most pedals and preamp setups. The interesting thing here is that you have level, highs, lows, drive, done. Outside of that, you have the filth and dirt switches. We'll get into those. We're talking really simple layout, but there's a little bit more versatility here than you might guess at first. So I've got everything set at noon here, and there's one thing that I want to stress with this, and we're going to check out a little bit of audio here right away, but people tend to do this, and I've noticed it especially with Tech21 stuff for some reason, is they start at noon and go forward, and they think that's all that's available, and they wind up scooping out their sound or something, or saying it doesn't have enough mids. I know this will be a shock, but the knobs go the other way too. So try this out with these functions. I found some really great tones by actually going counterclockwise, and you will have to, because you're subtracting as far as the EQ, you will have to boost your level a bit, but no big deal. But you can get some really interesting tones that are hidden down in that end of the tone stack that you might not get if you just keep going, well, I want more bass, I want more treble, and then all of a sudden you're slammed in both of them, you haven't quite gotten there. So let's check it out just at 12 with no gain and, you know, everything kind of set center. Now to me, that's definitely not bass driver territory. To me, this almost reminds me maybe of, like, if you're familiar with the Paradriver from Tech21, something more in that heritage. I could be wrong, but I haven't heard the Paradriver in a while, but I think that's kind of it. So let's mess with some controls and see what we get. Let's see what we get as far as bringing up some lows. If I really dime this out. Now what I like here is that I didn't find any EQ range where you can get on a lot of things where it's just kind of like it's unnecessary. Like, why even include that as part of your sweep when it's completely useless? It just turns to mud. This is still usable all the way up. I haven't done anything to the treble yet, but hearing totally usable sound. So even at its furthest point, you've got something that may fit with your sound, and it also tells me that you can make small adjustments as far as the tone stack goes and really dial something in rather than having massive radical changes that you're, you know, it's like when you're in the shower and you're trying to get the hot water in between here and here. So that I thought was pretty cool, but bring this back down to center. We've got an identifiable tone stack already. You can make it thicker, you can make it thinner, you can brighten it up, but there's a core sound that's going to resonate all the way through it. Let's check out where our treble's sitting. We'll dime this up. So again, you can still hear that core sound, the core tone stack, but now you've got more fret click, you got more attack going on. So still a usable thing. And if you have a dark sounding bass, again, you can adjust right to it. Totally usable. Now, to talk about what I was saying earlier, I'm going to take both of these controls all the way back. I'll have to boost up the level a bit. But see, now I've still got a tone. It's got a lot more mid honk to it. If you subtract bass and treble, what's left but mid, right? 'Cause science. Now, I've seen that be a common issue with a lot of bass players that really dig out their tone. They complain that they can't get that out of it and say that the pedal is necessarily scooped. It's not. You just forget that the knobs go this way. So that's what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. And again, if you're using this with another processor, maybe with a bass driver or something else, not that you would need it because there's a ton of gain we're going to get into. But if your pickups are scooped or something like that, dialing back, you're still going to be able to get the StreetDriver's inherent tone just with a bit of that mid honk. So let's just bring this back up to kind of a neutral position here. And let's start getting into the gain. Bring this back down a bit. So with nothing else engaged, we bring the gain up about 50%. It's not quite fuzz, it's not quite distortion. It's something sitting kind of in between. It's got a warmness to it. There's a thick, but it's not as soft as, say, something like the Getty units where they have more of a smear and kind of that really nice spongy give to it. It's attack driven, but it still opens up a little bit. Dime this thing out. So again, totally usable type of thing. Even at its most extreme, that to me is still a functional level of distortion. Let's bring this back a little bit and let's get to these two switches. Now you have the one here called Filth. And that went through me a little bit because at least to me, I don't know that I would describe it as filth. If you're familiar with some of the Tech21 stuff that they did for Getty, you know, the 2112 and the rack units and the DI, there's like a bite switch on it that gives you a bit more kind of upper mids, cuts a little bit of lows, sharpens up everything, a little bit of mojo in it. This to me feels like a version of that. And I think you'll hear what I mean. If we're just going filth switch in, it gives it that grind. To me, it's that upper mids, especially in metal and rock and stuff that we're usually going for anyway. Half the time you pick up a pick or something, it's to get that sound. For me, this would be an always on switch. I'd probably kick in a little extra bass here and tight, solid, but still tons of snarl. Let's pull that out, and then let's check out the other one here, being the dirt switch. I think this one actually is pretty accurate. Yeah, that's dirt. Definitely to me, has kind of an interesting, adds a bit of a mid honk to it. There's like a hollow ringing type of tone to it. And again, both of these also will react to the amount of gain you're driving into it. So right there you can see, even with the dirt engaged, it kind of works in conjunction with your gain, so that even though it's kind of a severe overdrive, dialing back the gain, you can make it something that still fits in the mix, isn't too overbearing, but it's going to give one hell of a ton of snarl to the overtones and things like that without dominating the sound or making your notes indistinguishable from each other. You can, and this is the fun part, run the filth and the dirt in conjunction, and for me, that's where the fun kind of starts. A little bit more definition, makes the distortion cut a little harder, and adds that nice kind of ring on top. Now, two tones that I think are kind of hidden in here that go back a little bit, and I don't think were intentional, but I think are pretty easy to get out of here if you're a fan. The style of distortion reminded me of two other things. One is much later John Entwistle, actually. He had a very driven kind of almost guitar signal on top thing where it sounded a lot like... Back just a bit, make sure our dirt's up, and let's bring in some high. A very guitar-esque type of distortion. It's not as fuzzy or woolly as a lot of bass distortions can be. Now the other tone I kind of noticed in here is dropping the bass and the high back just a little bit. Something that sounds a lot like older school Cliff Burton. Very in that school type of distortion, whereas, you know, Cliff had that really swirling kind of wah infused thing. I think the tonal effect that the wah going into his distortion gave, this has a bit natively. And it has that same kind of smoke to it, if you know what I mean. And you got a bit more definition. So, very cool. These two switches can work in conjunction with each other. You can use it with it in and with it out. So if this is... take the filth out, bit throatier, bit more muscular. My overall thoughts on it are going to be, it's a unit with a lot hiding in it, but with a really simple approach to it. Again, 4 knobs, 2 switches, meat and potatoes right there, but there's a lot hidden inside of here, which is kind of cool that it's not overcomplicated, it's straight to the point. It's one color of sound, but that you can add and shape and twist a number of different ways to get a lot of different options out of. And I would be pretty hard pressed to say you can't pull something that you want out of it, whether it be a lot more clean out of this, bring our gain back down, everything at 12. With just a little bit of that metallic chime and some spice on top, or the full-on distortions. So, very cool job, a lot packed into a little package. So I think that kind of wraps it for this one. Have you picked up one of these? I'd be interested to hear what you've gotten out of it, if you've picked one up and you're getting different sounds or had a totally different impression from me about the style of the distortion and everything. And based on what you heard, do you think it's something you're going to pick up? As always, hit me up in the comments down there, and I think that's going to be a wrap for the StreetDriver48 Frank Bello signature. Looking forward to playing with this a little bit more and then pass it back to my man that let me borrow it. So, that does it for this one. I will see you on the next one. Yeah, I get the ones that do the sound and everything, but which button do I press to make me play like Frank? Practice? Oh!